And what about the thousands or millions of people cheated by him? Are they satisfied? Thao told me that this book is not only intended to enlighten the inhabitants of this planet, but also to open their eyes, wake them up to what is happening around them. Thao and her people are very concerned about the ways in which we allow ourselves to be led by a handful of rotten politicians, who skillfully make us believe we are free and democratic, when, in relation to the universal law, we are no freer than a flock of sheep. We may occasionally stray from the path and think we are free, but that's an illusion, because we end up in the meatworks without even realizing it. The politicians use the word democracy like a smoke screen. The majority of politicians have three gods: power, glory and money. They are, nonetheless, afraid of the masses because, as Arki, see chapter 10, demonstrated, groups of people who really get on well can achieve exactly what they want. Even the Communist Party in Russia has now collapsed, and the world knows the KGB was a vicious and powerful organization, but I must admit, or rather our friends avoided a huge amount of bloodshed by giving the go-ahead. I've known this for a long time, and they may have deliberately delayed the publication of this book so that I could include this in the postscript. Remember that mankind was created with freedom of choice. All totalitarian regimes deny this, and they will collapse one day. I advise you to turn your attention to China. The leaders of many countries, who have been elected in a so-called democratic fashion, just do as they like, once they're in power. A typical example is the French government, which is still carrying out nuclear testing in the Pacific and polluting with radiation the last great resource we have left, namely the ocean. I already know from a reliable source that the French scientists in Mururo are very concerned about the gigantism that affects some species of fish, particularly the parrotfish, which has been subjected to atomic radiation in the area around Mururo. These fish have grown to 3 times their natural size. Let's hope the same doesn't happen to the great white shark, which is found in our waters. Furthermore, if you carefully follow the dates of the underwater explosions at Mururo, you will notice that in the hours later, but more commonly 2 to 4 days after the event, there is always a large-scale earthquake somewhere on the planet, following the explosion, of course. French politicians have thus been committing a crime on a planetary scale for several decades. I am sorry and ashamed to have been born French.